Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. Hi guys, I'm JT.
Hey guys, I'm Joey. This coffee is delicious.
Oh, enjoy that. I'm having black tea.
Second coffee of the day. Will be my last one, and it is before lunchtime.
Cheers, cheers.
Just to qualify.
High energy. Let's get with it. Guys, guilt around injuring a teammate. Yeah, it sucks to get injured.
I don't know what that's about.
But
I don't feel bad. Let's sign the waiver.
No conscience.
Hey.
No conscience.
It's fucking you or me.
Game on.
And I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not me.
Joey brings out the tiger claws.
Yeah.
Have a look at Nate's face and you'll know what it's like to roll
Yeah,
with Joe
JT fucked
Worthington.
Nate up yesterday.
Oh, well, yes, true. Truth be told, let's get right into it. We had a moment yesterday in training. Nate had just finished rolling with Joe, and I've been particularly hard on Nate. He's a 2-stripe brown belt. He wants to be a black belt, and I am pushing him to up his level. I went really hard on a bow and arrow choke, and I had a grip on his pants, had a grip on the lapel, and I sat back. But when I pulled his leg, I didn't pull his leg straight. His knee was kind of bent. So it was like it pulled his lower leg to the side.
You're kind of towards the ankle a bit, weren't you?
Yeah. And I didn't realize I was going for the choke, so I just sat and pulled, and he tapped. But when I was like, yeah, and I beat my chest, and I was like, yeah, I'm the world champion.
Came over, we body slammed real quick.
Yeah, and I was like, cop that, you pussy brown. But and then I turned around, and Nate was holding his knee. I was like, oh, shit. I was like, oh, God, what have I done? And I'm like, man, are you okay? And he was like, my knee, I felt a pop. I was like, oh, God. Now I'm going to have to teach all the classes. No, I was like, I never want to
I'll give you your black belt right now.
You can punch me back. Don't tell mum. We'll be even. No, I felt really bad because like I never want anyone to be hurt as a result of training. It's just pointless. Injuries are pointless. And I know Nate, we train together most days, and he had complained about a week ago that he had a little niggle in his knee. And yeah, he was like, man, I think you've torn the ligament in my knee. And I was crestfallen. I was upset. I was like, man, I'm a dick. I felt guilty as hell. And I was like, man, that's terrible. What? I didn't know what to do because...
We turned into a podcast.
Yeah, hey, content. All right, it's an opportunity. No, I felt shit. And I think if you've been in this position where you're going for the sub and the person's fighting you really hard, whether it's an armbar, a choke, anything, and then you put it on and then pop, their elbow cracks or their knee snaps, or you're like, oh my God, and they're in pain and they're your friend. You're like, I'm a bad person. I'm a bad teammate.
That's a horrible feeling.
It's the worst feeling going around, I would say. I would say it's worse than being injured because you can do nothing. Don't get me wrong. Being injured sucks, but you can actually start to take action to heal your body. Person external to you as the injurer can do nothing. Just harbor that feeling. Unless the person was faking and they come to training the next day, they roll really hard and they're just fine. But that's not the case, guys. Sometimes you will injure your training partners, and that is a terrible thing. And it's not necessarily just your fault because you might be putting on the submission real slow. You're looking at them, you're doing the eye check. You're like, are they going to tap? And they're like, oh, we'll never tap. And you're like, oh, you start putting it on, and then you haven't even really fully put on the submission, and there's a snap or a pop. And you're like, oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, it can go down in so many ways, but really it is just a part of the thing, isn't it? That we're playing this game where I'm trying to catch you and put you in a bad position so that you tap, and I do it with the best control that I can under the circumstances, and you respond with the most amount of awareness that you can. But it's like, of course, there's this potential that someone's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
It's a shit thing. It happened with me at with like a social jits get together over at Pillen's place.
Okay. Yeah.
And I put a guy in a toe hold, and like he kind of just didn't do anything. And so I kept applying it, and he didn't do anything, and then it popped, like something popped. And then he was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, oh, man, I'm so sorry. And he's like, no, I stayed in there, like I should have tapped. And I was like, but of course I was like, yeah, but I could have put it on, like I didn't have to put it on that hard.
Yeah.
Like, because whatever, like I could have put it on less hard.
Yeah.
And he could have tapped earlier. Like all these things that could have happened to have changed,
averted the
that's
situation.
right. But the reality was, and I was like, oh man. Anyway, it was kind of fine after a couple of weeks of a sore ankle, but it's like, it's a shit thing. What do you do about it?
Well, here's the thing. They say PTSD usually comes from what you witness happen to others as opposed to what happens to you.
Right.
So often soldiers get trauma from either doing terrible things or witnessing unspeakable
Who says
crimes.
this?
No, I read this.
I'm just thinking like...
No, don't get me wrong. You can get trauma
I don't
from
want to get
being
all fucked up right now, but rape victims?
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that when you witness someone being tortured, that can haunt you far more than the torture itself. Like if you...
Right.
Because there's ways for you to process it. If it's
Yeah.
external to you, you have no way to process it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, it's much harder to be the injurer than being injured. But what I'm saying is this. I had harbored guilt about injuring a person and was told I injured them back when I was a blue belt. And I held that all the way through to brown belt. Like I held that for years. I was like, man, I wish I got a chance to take that back. I wish I never did that. I don't have many regrets in my life. No regrets. But I always felt like I'd done the wrong thing because this guy pulled his arm up out of the armbar and his elbow snapped. But anyway, long story short, I rolled with him many years later and he told me, nah, man, my elbow's fine. Just a little pop. I was back to training 2 weeks later. I thought I retired this guy. I felt so bad. And then I was like, I've been feeling bad for 6 years that I ended your jiu-jitsu career. And here you are doing the same bullshit. And I had him in an armbar, different arm, and he tried to pull out of it. And I just let go. And I'm like, you haven't learnt the lesson, bro. God damn it. And that's the thing. Like you can feel terrible, but the truth is we all know that injury is part of jiu-jitsu. Not that we would ever go out of our way to try to hurt our training partners, but if you play this game, you know, it could be you. You could be the injury maker and that you can learn from it. In the same way when you cop an injury, you learn from that too.
It's, so yeah, part of the thing, right? It's going to happen.
Yep.
And all you can really do is just try to be as responsible and as mindful as possible and not, not like go super hard when it's not appropriate. But, all that said, one thing that I find interesting, and we spoke about this yesterday, is what happens like right after that moment.
Yep.
Can I just like what the conversation
please.
Like so Nate's like my knee and JT's like, oh fuck, how does it feel? And he's like, oh, like it feels okay. It just popped. And JT's like, can you stand on it? And he's like, yeah, I can. And then you're like, can you squat down? Yeah, that feels okay. And it's like. They're going through this thing like, oh, actually, it's pretty good. Yep, can stand. Yep, can squat. And it's like...
Can you keep rolling?
Yeah, and we're basically trying to... And then the next step there is, I'll get an ice pack. Classic, right? Like
the only thing you can do.
Guys, someone get an ice pack, And then it's like... Yeah, it's like the things that we do when reality is there's nothing we can do.
Nothing's going to make it better.
The best course of action is for Nate to stop.
Stop rolling.
Right? And... for us to not talk about it and, let's see how you feel in 24 hours. And if it's still sore, maybe you go see a physio, Like, but we can't, but we're not we want to do what we can to help. And we all want to be positive and we want to be productive. So it's like, let's just do some rudimentary tests that tell us nothing. Can you squat? And I say this as the guy who tore his ACL. And I did the exact same ads like, how's it feel? I'm like, well, it was really sore, but it feels okay now. And I'm like, well, I can squat. And I can bend it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know why it feels great is because the ligament is
completely ruptured.
It's no longer attached to itself.
Yeah.
Like it's snapped in two. So there's no pain receptors.
There's no
there.
nerve endings.
Yeah, so it's like feels great.
Adrenaline's hitting.
Man, knee actually feels like freer than
It
usual.
feels better.
Yeah, there's no fucking ligament getting in the way. We don't think that that's what's happened to Nate, but it's an interesting observation in those critical moments. Not critical, but just those moments.
No, but
it's really awkward because there's nothing you can do or that they can do.
And in the heat of the moment, you're not actually going to know how bad it is because the adrenaline is present. It's only once it wears off and you get home or the next day and you're like, oh God, this is actually far worse than I thought.
Yeah, like maybe, right? But maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. And maybe you did rupture something or tore something, but there's no associated swelling, and it's just, it's an interesting thing with injuries that now that we have the technology to look at them, to look
Yeah.
at joints, like with MRIs,
Yes.
there's people that are like, you got a ruptured ACL. I was actually listening to a podcast, knee surgeons talking about it.
Right.
And it's Merv Cross and Tom Cross, father and son. Father Merv is one of the greatest knee surgeons in Australia's history. Worked here in Sydney. Was doing knee reconstructions back in the 60s.
Right.
And he's like, we didn't have MRIs till like the 90s or whatever. So he's like, they had arthroscopies. He's like, I could swim around in a knee joint with a camera, and tell some shit. But he said prior to that, we didn't know what was going on. He said we just had some instruments and shit. But they were talking about being in Fiji and working over there, and they're like, in Fiji, in Nandi Hospital, there's no MRI machine there.
Wow.
So he's like, I see a bunch of like guys with like whatever, like a bit of a knee thing. Turns out they haven't had an ACL for years.
Wow.
But they didn't know because there's no technology to tell them.
That's
So they
right.
just keep playing football, no big deal.
Just getting away with it.
Yeah, like it's interesting when we can look deeper, we find stuff. The inability to look can sometimes be a blessing.
In a way, yeah, the ignorance can be helpful.
That's a bit off track, but
But no, I hear you. And here's the thing. Our good friend Julian, it's like, hey, bro, let's shake hands. He's like, oh, he's giving us the left-hand handshake.
left-hand handshake.
What's going on there?
Classic Jols move.
Yeah, that's it's a power play. What are you, Gordon Ryan? And then he's like, nah, man, right arm's a bit ginger. Oh, what happened? Got armbarred. Oh, really?
Hitchhiker escape gone wrong.
And it's like, he's like, probably should have tapped earlier. Right? And we all do this. I do this all the time. I will fight out of a submission until,
Yeah.
like I rarely tap. I usually scream.
Like, motherfucker went too hard on me.
He jacked my elbow. But I will fight to that very nth degree. So we could say, does anyone external to you ever injure you? Do you know, obviously, were you not
Complicit in that.
some part complicit, right? Because you could have
Because you
said,
could have
"Hey,
just
man,
tapped
stop."
when they had your arm.
Yeah, you're just like, nah. Just be that guy who taps early. That's fine.
But then you could have got out.
But you could have.
Coulda
Right?
got
So
out.
it's a gamble. You're betting your ligaments on your jiu-jitsu skills. That's a pretty high threshold of bet. You're literally putting your body on the line. So I think when it comes back to this whole guilt around injuring people, sometimes, not all the time, we can look at it and go, it is some portion, the person being submitted, as much as it is the person doing the submission. It's never it was just that person.
No, everyone plays a part.
That's right. So I think if we can accept injury as part of the game, know that, even if you roll responsibly, sometimes you might hurt somebody. It's part of the thing.
So can we maybe, if we were to be able to dictate the culture change, if we take the situation you had with Nate yesterday and we go, all right, that's going to happen. It's going to play out. It's playing out as we speak across the globe, jiu-jitsu academies all around the world. What could we offer as a model of exchange? Okay, here's what to do next. So, what we point out is like, oh, can you move it? Can you do this? Can you do that? How does it feel? Yeah, it feels pretty good. I'll keep training. Yeah, I'll just go easy on it. Right? Or could we say like, all right, if you're listening to this and you're like pretty new to the game and you're like yet to encounter this wonderful situation, what do you say when you end up in that? When you're JT and your partner's like, oh, I felt a little thing, a click or a pop or something.
Stop rolling. But the thing is, Nate didn't.
No.
he sat off.
He's a grown man.
He made his choices and he jumped back in the fire with you, right?
Oh, he brought it.
He didn't want to stop.
Yep.
He didn't want to, and the adrenaline was still hitting. The next step for me with it, like if I've injured somebody, I'll say, do you have physio? Like that would be my first step. I'm like, go talk to a physio. Even if you feel better the next day, even if in 24 hours time, you're like, sweet. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's the start of a long-term problem.
Go see him anyway.
Yeah, just get a professional who knows to test the joint, have a look, give you some feedback because you don't know. It doesn't matter. You just want to do jiu-jitsu. So you'll make all kinds of excuses to ignore it. And that's what I'd say is a big problem is that people don't take that step of going to somebody who knows better. Don't go to your doctor. Like I think a lot of people are under the impression they've got to go to the doctor, go to the physiotherapist.
Don't go to your coach either.
Coach is like, just put some Tiger Balm.
Yeah.
Let me massage that for you.
You got some acai at home?
Just rub it straight in the skin. It just absorbs right in. Just wrap it with cling wrap. No, see a physio. That's my advice. And then give it at least a day or two. Don't go straight back to training because you've got to see how it plays out in your day-to-day life. That would be my advice.
Yeah. I would say like even earlier, like in that exchange, go, all right, you might have hurt yourself. You may not have. There's whatever, 2 more rounds left.
Yep.
3 more. Sit out. Don't do any more train tonight. Just fucking take a chill pill, sit off to the side, let your nervous system calm down. You know, whatever. Like, I'm really sorry. That's a shit thing to happen.
Yep.
Hey, but let's just cool. You know, like don't fill that space with the tests or the ice pack or the I'll just keep rolling. But just call it.
Stop.
Yeah, just chill. It's cool. You know, it's what happens. And then like next day, like book in with a physio. It's worth it. You're gonna pay him 80, 90, 100, 120 bucks.
Doesn't matter.
You're gonna get some peace of mind, and at the very least, you're gonna get a little massage. Maybe go and check out my bad shoulder as well. Yeah. Make a real valuable session out of it. But yeah, like just take the responsible choice. It's not about doing the round, like the 1 more round or the 2 more rounds that night. It's about like making sure that your body's okay, so that you can come back on a repeated basis and enjoy the training. So fucking sit it out and chill.
Yeah, definitely. That is the time. If you feel that you may have torn a ligament, torn a muscle, done a serious injury, or you may have done a serious injury to someone, and you know, feel free to sit off with them. You know, like it's you're in it together.
But at the same time, I think there is an acceptance of there's nothing you can do.
No.
So it's like man, apologize, but I'm fucking that sucks. Like express all that, express what you're feeling, but you don't have to, you know.
Don't let it hang over you like a cloud.
Like go and keep training because it is part of the game, and you know, on some other occasion, you're going to be the person that's sitting
on the other end,
and you don't really want that person sitting there telling you how bad they feel.
No,
it's like, no, you told me you're sorry. You told me it's an unfortunate situation.
Sure.
You know, you're still my homie. Go and train. Like, get out of my face. Let me just breathe for a bit and relax. Like, you know. So I think that's a real thing. I tell you, someone who's really good at that is our mate Adam Childs.
Oh yeah,
he. In a case of an injury, there is like zero remorse from that guy. Like there's never like, oh man, I'm sorry that happened. It's just like, it's like, oh, what happened? Oh, okay. Oh, bummer, man. Okay, yeah. After I get you the ice pack, sit to the side.
Oh, geez.
Shout out to my coach. Ruthless though.
Yeah, but possibly one of the most injured guys we know.
Yeah, right.
No way. What's going on there?
He's been through those moments many times.
Yes, indeed.
Guys, thanks for listening. Hey, if you want help from us, check out our program, Strength and Mobility, and all the stuff that's going to help you stay strong on the mats and be less injured. Bulletproof for BJJ.com. Start a free trial. Use the code BJJ Podcast. You get 20% off. And we'll see you there. If you've got any questions, come straight at us.
Thank you.
Peace.